Hi campers, this is Darren with My RV Works. Today we are in Discovery Bay, Washington, and we're going to be working on a cooling unit. We're going to be replacing this cooling unit. You'll see here in the insulation where this yellow stuff, that's basically a sodium chromate ammonia mix that's basically worked its way out of the cooling unit. These cooling units are pressurized, and this is the heating element. When the heating element gets hot, it might fatigue the metal. We've seen that, and basically because it's pressurized, it's found a weak spot and it pushes itself out. So basically there's nothing that can be done at this point other than replacing the cooling unit. You basically have three options. One, replace the cooling unit. Two, replace the whole refrigerator or put in a residential at this point. I don't recommend replacing the whole refrigerator. There's nothing wrong with the insulated box. The problem is just with the cooling unit. The other option would be a residential. Sometimes on the residential, put in a residential refrigerator. You might need to take a window out to get this one out and the new one in. And then you might, well, there's no might about it. You're definitely going to have an issue where you have to secure the new refrigerator so it doesn't fall all over the place when you're making your turns. But some kind of creative engineering might be beneficial there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pull this refrigerator out. This customer has decided to replace this cooling unit. The benefit there is he'll be able to run it off of LP when he's going down the road. It's very quiet that way. So we're going to turn off the gas, disconnect the LP right here. We disconnect the 12 volt. We've unplugged it, and somewhere in that mess we'll find the 12 volt power. So you take off the 12 volt power, disconnect, turn off the gas, disconnect the gas, and there's 2 screws in the back and 8 screws on the inside, and we'll take all that out. You work the refrigerator will slide forward. So let's show you what we're going to do on the inside. So on the inside there's going to be 4 screws along the top, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And then it's good to take the doors off. So you take this hinge off, the top door slides out of this socket, and then you take these screws out right here to take off this whole hinge, and then down at the bottom. So we're going to do that next. We're going to take all the doors off, and that'll make this a lot easier to work on. Okay, at this point we've got the screws loose in the back, the 4 screws loose on the top, 4 screws loose on the bottom, and then we've got the doors off. Okay, so now this refrigerator is going to be really easy to work on. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these 4 screws out on this side, these 4 screws out on this side, and then if you look inside of the fins, we're going to take these screws out as well. Okay, so what we've done so far, we've disconnected the LP, disconnected the electric, disconnected the 12 volt, taken all the doors off, and we're going to remove these 8 screws here and however many are down there. So that's the next step of this cooling unit R&R. Okay, now that we've got everything loose, basically it's just a matter of pulling the refrigerator out, setting on the floor. I like to set it on top of, I get these furniture pads from Harbor Freight during their sidewalk sales. Whew, out of breath a little bit. And so you see I got the furniture pad staged over here on the floor. We drop the refrigerator directly on the furniture pad, and you just slide it across. These little shoulder harnesses work fantastic. I've got my partner with me, and so she's on one side, I'm on the other. You just pick the whole refrigerator up on your shoulder harness and just lower it right down. And so, as you see here, we've got these little shoulder harnesses, and now the 2x4 we have there, we've got that because as you look here, we've got this little control module in this thing. So we'll set the 2x4 up right in this area, so that doesn't gouge into the floor. Okay. So let me catch my breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay the whole thing down here on these pads, okay? And once we do that, this back part is a cooling unit. Over the next few minutes, you're going to learn more about a cooling unit than you ever dreamed of. And so basically, that's what we're going to be replacing: all the metal steel part and this foam pad right in here. It's called the cat box here in the trades, and you'll see why we call it the cat box here in just a few minutes. Okay, now we have the refrigerator laid down. That's why we took the doors off. And so I like to start on cooling units. I'm very linear in my approach. I start at the top and work my way down. And so there's going to be screws that are holding that condenser down. All these wires, this one right here is for the ice maker. This is for the fans, okay? The absorber coil here. And then we're going to be reusing the controls, the burner. And as I get into more of the advanced stuff, I'll be making videos of that as well, okay? So stay tuned as we start getting more and more into this. We've done, gosh, 20 of these, I guess, in the last couple of years. So I guess we've kind of learned some tricks of the trade. So we're here to teach you what we can. This is a heat transfer mastic paste that we're going to be using. You'll see that a little bit later on, but I would recommend, this is like a heater the customer's got here. I'd recommend getting this warmed up a little bit, because if this is cold, it's not very fun to work through your gun. Okay, so as I'm taking apart this cooling unit, I wanted to talk a little bit about what this thing is right here. This is a thermostat, okay? Come closer to see what this thing is. And so you'll see these wires coming in on the top and the bottom, okay? Now it's very important that it's on this first pin right here. As this starts to get hot, this thermostat closes at 130 degrees, okay? Now pan back out, and you'll see that they got a really big loom, but it's really just these two wires that are going in here. And basically what they're controlling is these fans right here, okay? Think of them as giant computer fans. And what we're doing is this refrigerator is trying to shed the heat, okay? So that thermostat turns on at 130, off at 105, and it's controlling these fans to help shed this heat off of the absorber coil, okay? So you might find a situation where your refrigerator is not working as optimally as it could, and I'm going to ask you, do you hear fans operating in your refrigerator? If you do not hear fans operating in your refrigerator, then let's take a look at this thermostat. It's called a fan thermostat. Let's look at that. Let's see if your fans work. Here's a trick up here you can do. If you want to find out if they're working, gain access to this thermostat right here. If your refrigerator is in a slide room, it's easy because you just take the cover off right here. This refrigerator is not in a slide room, so the only way to get to this is to pull the refrigerator or to go through the roof. But if you're in a slide room, okay, you can take these two wires. Hold on for a second. You can take the two wires and jumper them together again. And if I jumper them together, haven't I become the thermostat? I'm kind of forcing the issue here. I'm touching these two wires together, becoming the thermostat. So if the thermostat has failed and I touch these two wires together, I should have my fans operate. If my fans do not operate when I touch these two together, then I expect to find 12 volts on one, and I expect to get that down from the control board at below. So I expect 12 volts here. It's going to be sitting on my one side of my thermostat. Thermostat closes at 130, and then I expect it to pass through to the other side, going straight to my fans. Okay, now up at the top, we did have the black and the white wire, and we identify those down here in the control board. So we need to make sure we have 12 volts coming, feeding that thermostat. Okay, now on this control board, not all refrigerators are the same, but on this control board, we're coming from the control board feeding that thermostat. The thermostat then feeds the fans. So as we look through here, we'll see, you can see the black and the white wire. You see where I'm moving it right here. This is the white wire that goes up to the thermostat and then comes back down, and this is where it ties into the fans. The takeaway from this exact point I'm trying to make is that that thermostat up there plays it's only a $12 or $13 part, but it plays a very big part on your refrigerator's performance. Again, the symptom would be, Darren, my freezer's freezing, but my refrigerator is not keeping the food cold. And if that's the symptom, then I really want you to look at that thermostat and these two fans, okay? In a pinch, as they say in Texas, a pinch, what you could do is you can get another fan, a small little fan to put down here. You don't want to put the fan over on the boiler side, okay? But just to get you through, if you find that situation, put a fan opposite the boiler over here to help blow some air up. If your fans have failed or your thermostat have failed, you do want to get some air to flow through here. That over here, this boiler needs to be about 360 degrees. So you don't want to do anything that's going to make that cooler than 360. So put your fan over on this side to help blow it through, and that'll get you by until you can, if you're up in the Olympic Peninsula, have Marvy Works come and work on this for you, or get it to a shop or something. Okay, with all the insulation gone, you can see the extent of the breach. Don't really know exactly where it came out, but if you see this yellow powdery residue, then that's the sign that your cooling unit has failed, and that at that point you need a new cooling unit. So we're going to be reusing this burner, parts of the burner. So let me take these off. So there's one screw here. You pull this out, move him out of the way. There's going to be one screw down here that's going to hold your electrode in. There's your electrode. There's one screw here that's going to hold your burner in, and you have to loosen it from this side as well. So this whole assembly comes out. And this is aluminum, so you do want to be very careful this whole thing is like an aluminum big piece. Let's get it out. I want to show you something about this, why they put this little curly Q in it. So there's your gas valve, your gas burner tube, and this is an anti-vibration loop. So as you're going on the road and the thing's moving, it's not going to put any fatigue on it. Now, what you're going to be looking for here is, this one's okay, I don't mind that. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of rust build up in there, and I've even seen where these will burn themselves through. Okay, so that's something you're going to look for. If that happens, you just loosen this right here, and just, there's a kit. You could buy just a kit just to replace this, okay? And now here's the electrode. Let's talk about this for a second while we can see it. So the electrode fits right above it, and you want there to be about 1/8 of an inch gap above where the electrode is and where that burner is. If it's too close, that's not good. If it's too far, it's not good. If that's not squared off, that's not good. And so we want that to be about 1/8 of an inch inside this burner right here, okay? And there's a little bit of rust. Okay, rust is coming out of this thing, but it's acceptable. Once we get the rust out, I think we're going to be fine. The residue that's in here, I'm calling it rust, is from all this falling inside of it. But this is going to be fine. I really believe we can salvage that. I don't see any problems with that at all. Now, like I said, if it had burned itself through, which I've seen, then we need a new one of these. Okay, so now that we've got everything loose, I think we've done all of our housekeeping. This went to the ice maker. It's going to be black, white, green, and brown. Black, white, green goes up to the ice maker. Brown comes back from the ice maker to the solenoid. We've moved this one here comes from the solenoid for the ice maker. It's wrapped in aluminum because it's got that heated tape around it. Okay, so he's out of the way. We've got our fans loose. We've got our thermostat loose. And so what they've got here is they've got some duct tape around this. Okay, let me cut all the duct tape off. And I think I got that. Okay, so now's the exciting part. This is always the fun part. You never know what you're going to find when you pull one of these things up. So you just start down here, get some leverage, and it just lifts right out. Now what we have here, I want to hit the ceiling. Okay, so now here's your cooling unit. It's about a 3-inch thick foam, okay? And you've got 4 elements that make this thing work. Water, ammonia, hydrogen, and sodium chromate. Forget sodium chromate. He's an anti-rust inhibitor. He doesn't really contribute to the cooling of it. And then you have pressure, gravity, and heat. And in these tubes, there's actually a tube within a tube here. And at this part here, what you have is ammonia and hydrogen. The ammonia comes in and wets the pipe, the inside of the pipe, and then the hydrogen gas comes by, is attracted to that wetness, and it has a rapid evaporation. And you have anywhere from a -20 to a -125 degree reaction on these plates right here. And you'll see that the tube comes in right here and does a zigzaggy thing here. It's the same exact tube, comes back through here, and this is the part that's the fins of your refrigerator. So when you open up your refrigerator, remember all the screws that we loosened? They go right into here. Okay, so this is the back side of the refrigerator. And in the freezer compartment, we had all those screws that we took out. Here they are right here. Okay, and now this brown stuff is a mastic. That's earlier in the video we showed you how we're warming it up. It just makes it easier to work with. We did a job where it was kind of cooler, and it took everything just to squeeze the gun to get this cold stuff out. So we're warming it up. That's something we learned. But we'll clean up this area here is called the cat box in the trade. Even if you were to go where they manufacture these things, which we've done, they call this thing right down here the cat box. So we're going to clean the cat box up really well. And you'll notice that they have the mastic on these steel plates, on the back of the fin for the refrigerator, and then also in this track right here. So you need, we'll clean these up. We'll apply new mastic on the tubes here and on the plates, tubes and plates. Now you know something I see here. I see a little bit of rust right here. Rust, rust, rust. What that might be an indication of, even down here I see some rust. So what that might be an indication of is what's called an ice dam. Now that would be secondary to the cooling unit failing. I don't think that the ice dam would have caused the cooling unit to fail, but it would have caused the refrigerator to not work correctly. Now what an ice dam is when you have a very humid day And this is very cold. We said minus 120 to minus 125, very cold. Here's the humidity. Second law of thermodynamics, heat is attracted to cold, very warm and humid. And if that humid air can work itself through this side here and get into here, it will create an ice dam. Ice is at 32 degrees. And so now you've got ice acting as an insulator. And so your refrigerator or freezer is not performing very well. Now the reason I say that I think I see an ice dam is because of the rust. There should not be any rust in here. There should not be any water. There should not be anything in here except this mastic pad, or this mastic paste. But the rust indicates that there must have been an ice dam going on in here. So that's not a good thing. So it's a good thing that we're going to be replacing this cooling unit. We're replacing it because of the heating unit failed. But now that we see the ice dam, it would have never worked very optimally either. To prevent an ice dam, you make sure that you put your really good mastic on all these points here, and also all the way around the track here. And then I put the cooling unit down. We'll show you that when we get to that point. And if I still see a gap, I'll take some expandable foam and fill in around there, because we really want this to be as secure as it possibly can be, to not let any humid air work its into the cat box area. And then we hit it with this. They use duct tape from the factory. We use that foil tape like you'd find for an HVAC type job. But basically, this is the insulated box. That's the business end of this whole thing. This is the entire heating, or the entire cooling unit of the refrigerator. And we're going to take this one out. It gets sent back, and we'll bring a brand new one back in and put it all back together again. Here we have part of the breach of what caused the heating element actually shorted out. Here you can see the conductor right there. We can't even get it seized, it's bonded. So we're going to be sending it back that way. They can deal with it at the factory. Or, well, we're not sending it to the factory, but anyway. So this one's ready to go. Now I do need to, the last thing I need to do is take 2 screws out off this, take this off, because this is, the burner is going to go with the new cooling unit. And there's one more thing I'll point out. This piece here comes off. You gotta watch out. Sometimes when you get your cooling unit, they send these little, hold on, these things are hateful sometimes. There you go. This little piece right here, sometimes the new one is sent, your new cooling unit is sent with this, sometimes it's not. If you do not put this back in here, you will definitely have issues with your refrigerator working on LP. So it feeds itself down inside right into the boiler area is about how far down that goes. So we always need to make sure that this is in. If they do not send you one with your new cooling unit, you need to take the one off of your old cooling unit and add it to your new cooling unit. Okay, we just brought the new cooling unit in, and I noticed that it's got its little pin thing here that we were talking about. This one does not have its heating elements installed, so we're going to put new heating elements in it. And here's the burner. We took all the parts off the old one, so we'll be reassembling this. We've opened up the flue here with all the insulation. Heating element. There's these 2 sockets right here, so they just kind of go right in there. You'll probably see them poke out the bottom right there. That's acceptable. Okay. And this is where the heating elements go. There we go. And then this little cutout is where they will, you know, be poking out of. Okay, so what we've got the new cooling unit in, and now what we've done, where's my finger there? We cleaned out the cat box. We've squirted the mastic all through the part that needs to get really cold. And so we've put a hole right there. We've run this line is what comes from the drip tray on the refrigerator side, so that's going to pass through. And so now what we'll do is we'll lay the cooling unit down inside the cat box, and then we're going to raise the refrigerator up, and these holes here, we're going to raise up the refrigerator, align the holes here, secure it, and then lay the refrigerator back down. So at this point, we've raised up the refrigerator, and when the cooling unit on the backside is loose, it's easy to kind of maneuver around to find your holes here. And so you have holes there and all these holes here. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll take this little pick right here and just kind of find that sweet spot and kind of center it. And then that's where I can maneuver or manipulate that cooling unit around a little bit. So now that the cooling unit is bonded to the carcass, And we're on the back here. We've seen how everything's nice, and we've not pinched any of our wires. Okay, we've got all of our stuff free. So now we're going to lay it back down and finish up the back side. Okay, earlier when we were talking about eye stamps, I want to show you what we have here. So see the void right there? Now I've got the mastic in there, but this void runs clear around this whole cooling unit. Now here it's touching pretty good, but still, if I'm moist, warm air, and all I'm trying to do is satisfy the second law of thermodynamics, you know, so the universe doesn't fall apart from these laws, and I got to do my part, I'm going to find that cold spot, and I'm going to work my way into this thing, creating an ice dam. So here we have another big breach down in here. So if we don't secure that, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill it with some expandable foam, that Great Stuff product. Okay, there you can see. So here I can see where my mastic is, and the cooling unit never touched the mastic right there. So basically we're going to take our little straw and fill in all through here, and then we'll tape this down because we do not want any air from the outside to get into the cat box. Okay, so that's an important step that if you don't do and you don't look for, you're just begging for an ice dam. Okay, so as you see, what we've done is we've squirted I go with black. I use black. This is the product I use. It's black because a lot of times on RVs, underneath the RV, it's black, so I want it black. But so we've squirted it in there, and so now I'm just going to wipe off some of this excess. And we know the trick: always wear gloves, otherwise you're going to be wearing this stuff for like 3 days. So now that we've got that done, we know that it's in the void. So now we'll take our tape, our HVAC tape. I kind of want to get this before it sets, so that I'm kind of creating this mold, if you will, while it's still. What I'm trying to say here, I think you know what I'm trying to say. I want it to still be kind of expanding as I put my tape on here. In other words, I want to put the lid on it, is what I'm trying to say. I want to kind of put this tape on here really well, and while it's still expanding, so it has nowhere to go and starts to fill the void in. Okay, where we're at this phase is we've filled in the void all the way around the cat box, the cooling unit foam, with that expandable Great Stuff foam product. While it was still wet and expanding, we put the foil tape on it so that as it expands, it hits that tape and oozes itself back in. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're doing these cooling units, that should make sense. Do wear your purple gloves or whatever color gloves that you want, because if you get that Great Stuff product on you, it's not coming off for a couple of days. Don't ask me how I know that. But so this is the part where you really don't want to mess up. This is what the game is all about, making sure that this foam core is as correct as it can be. You make one mistake, then all your work is for naught. Everything you've done. If there's an air breach around the sides, if you didn't do your mastic right, if you didn't put your screws in on the back and bond the back plates to the back of the freezer, all those things, one little mistake and all of this work we've done is it's not worth it. You're gonna have to take it out and do it again, or your refrigerator just won't work very well. So at this point, the rest of it's just buttoning up. We put our loom back up. I've already put my thermistor, not wrong word, my thermostat, my fan thermostat, I've already screwed it back onto right here. And here's these wires, they get connected to it. We put it back in the loom. We've attached our fans already. And we're gonna put the control board here, the gas valve here. I've already started to reassemble this. I've already got my electrode in there. You see the electrode. I wanted to wait on putting that aluminum burner in until all the movement was done, because that thing is very fragile. So at this point, it's just buttoning up, and we're going to be working on the control board and finish up the burner, run our loom up to the top here, connect our thermostat, run our water line for our ice maker, and then we'll be done with this part of it, and then we'll raise it up, put it in, and turn it on. Okay, where we're at now with this is we are ready at this point to raise the refrigerator up and actually put it back into its space. So we'll give you a quick tour of what we've done. We took the screws out here. They're back in. It's great when the holes align. We've got our thermostat back in here. We got our screw here that secures this condenser fin. We've got our ice maker water line back in with the hose clamp on it. We put the loom on with the tie-down straps. Okay, we've made sure that our what do you want to call that thing? The long thingy with the thing on the thing. Okay, the thing that's back in. We put the cap back on right here. That little cover piece. Okay, we've made sure that our drain hose in here is coming through. We did the whole thing around the side with the expandable foam. We've reassembled our fans down here. We've rebuilt our burner. We've made sure that we have an 1/8 of an inch gap in there. Here's our ice maker hose that's insulated. We've got our new control board installed. We've connected our solenoid. This side here, we're gonna put the water hose on. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know is when you have a refrigerator that has an ice maker, the ice maker has its own 120 volt plug. This one's for the refrigerator, that one's for the ice maker. So we did a job not too long ago where their ice maker wasn't working, and all it was it wasn't plugged in. So make sure that that's plugged in. And so at this point, we're going to raise up the refrigerator and install it into its slot. But one step we're going to do before, we put on a new control board here, and that new control board comes with a new eyebrow board, which is the upper control board. They might call this a lower control board. That one's the upper control board, or eyebrow board is what it's called too. And we're going to put that on, put on a new thermistor, raise this refrigerator up, and put it back in, screw it in place, and we'll be done. Okay, so at this point, we've got the refrigerator reinstalled back into its little refrigerator hole. We made all the connections and put it on its coldest setting. And remember, this was the ice maker, this was the refrigerator. Okay, we've got our 12 volts in here, which is a Christmas colored wires, green and red. And we've got our gas. We've checked for gas leaks. We put on a new water line here. And the other one was kind of brittle, so it just made sense to put a new one in there. We've got the new little flare fitting thingy in there for them. Now, you're saying to yourself, well, great, Darren, but does it work? And it's on electric right now, so let's do some testing. We need to verify that this refrigerator is going to work. And let me reach down and grab my meter. Okay, so we got our meter. And what I'm going to do, okay, up here we have okay, I need to get one of these wires back up in here. Okay, so see I have my yellow wire right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my clamp-on meter around that yellow wire, and we're going to read how many amps are going to the AC heating element. Okay, so we've got the meter on there, and it's 1.47 amps, so I know that amperage is going to the heating element. That's one of those. There's two heating elements, and so I'll put the clamp meter on this other one, and we'll make sure that it's pulling the same. Now, there's another little trick. See, if I'm plugged in, right, and I'm on AC power, we see the AC current going to the heating element, which is right there. Now, if I unplug this, and I'm on auto mode, which I know I'm in auto mode, that's the AU on your display, so I'm going to unplug this from AC power here. You're going to hear a click on the control board. Listen for the click. Wait for it. There's a click. And down in here, there we go. So that started it on gas right away. And that's a nice pretty blue flame. Okay. And so what did I just do? And now my AC has gone to 0. And so what I've just done is I've just tested my refrigerator with the auto mode by just simply putting them on auto and plugging them in. Now I'm gonna peek inside of there. Now, here's a good thing. See that little thing that's glowing red? That's the electrode. Right there in that flame, an 1/8 of an inch above that flame, and he's glowing red, and he's sending a milliamp current back to the control board. And so that's kind of cool. Now watch, when I plug this in, let me look for where this plug is. Okay, when I plug this back in, that flame's gonna extinguish. We're gonna see amperage back on our meter. Here we go. So I plugged it in. You heard it. That glow is that electrode. And then we're going to come over here, and we see that we're back on AC. And so now we know that on automatic, we can plug and unplug the refrigerator on what would be basically shore power. And we can verify amperage to our heating element and flame in our, on our DC mode and auto mode. So Well, there you go. The inside looks like the inside of a refrigerator. There's no point. Let's just wrap up this video here. And we're putting these things together in the hopes that people can kind of watch them and kind of troubleshoot some of their own things, or also see what we do out here in the field. And we're really hoping it's a service that we can provide for folks. So happy campers, say my RV works. This is Darren signing off.